Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversant is Garrett. Garrett was recently featured last month on a 60 minutes expose on detransition, which was sandwiched by proper thought around the transgender ideology or experience. Garrett, however, did not have a good experience with trans medical care. He lost his testicles in the process of pursuing an identity that was false for him, and there was hardly any oversight. Garrett's story, I believe, is a good complement with my previous interview with Blair White, and you can see how their two's experiences differ and also what led up to them deciding to transition. It's kind of different. Very rare to find a male detransitioner who's willing to speak about this stuff. So I hope it is informative for those of you who are curious about this information. Without further ado, here is Garrett.
It's a lot of customer service.
Yeah, which is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
That's basically what my job is on the internet. It's just infinite customer service, except most of them aren't even paying. So,
Yeah.
So how do you want to map this out? Or is there something you want to start with or work toward?
I really don't know. I mean, the interviews I do, I usually just kind of go in and they ask the questions. I'm just there to respond.
Okay. What point are you now with relationship to transition? Do you consider yourself detransitioned?
Yeah. I'm still, there's still like a few more steps. Like I just got my name legally changed back this month, as well as my sex marker changed back. So I'm still trying to work through getting every document, bank account, et cetera, changed back. But for the most part, I feel like I've kind of detransitioned as much as possible. You know, I've reversed the surgeries to the best of my ability. I'm on testosterone replacement. Finally got the name and sex marker changed back.
Mm-hmm. What's testosterone? What'd you call it again?
The full name is like testosterone replacement therapy. It's
Okay.
like what men take when they've had an orchectomy, which I did have during my transition.
Okay. Okay. So where did this start? The idea of wanting to transition, or?
I would say sometime in college, like when I first went to college, I kind of knew about trans stuff, but when you go to college, you kind of just like you learn a lot more about the world than when you're in high school. So for a while there, I self-identified as genderqueer. I don't really tell people that, but in my head, I kind of felt it. Just because I'd always heard people saying, you know, if you feel kind of feminine and feel kind of masculine, you know, you could be non-binary or any one of those many identities in the gender spectrum per se. And so after that, I decided to transition for a bit. At 19, I went to a gender therapist for 2 appointments, got my letter for cross-sex hormones, and went on them. And I was on them for 4 to 6 months. I can't really remember the exact date. And so I told my mom, and she had asked me to stop and wait until I graduated and turned 21. So I just kind of put it all on the back burner and kind of forgot about it and just went back to being me, living life. And then after I graduated and my 21st was coming up, it all just kind of came back because I never really, I guess, dealt with those inner feelings during that like year and a half period that I had stopped. I never really went to therapy for it and kind of delved deeper into like why I felt that kind of way. So when the deadline that my mother had set was coming up, everything just kind of came back up. And I was like, you know, like, let's just go back in like head first. So I went right back to the same therapist, 2 appointments again, right back on the cross-sex hormones, and the rest is history now, I guess.
So in college, what what did those gender identities help you with, or what did they give you? Did they give you did they plug you into other people, plug you into yourself? Like,
I mean, looking back, they didn't really give me anything, to be completely honest. I guess when you're that age, 18 to 19, you're just kind of you're trying to figure yourself out and figure things out. And when you're hearing all these different things that kind of click with you, you kind of grab onto them to just try and find an identity for yourself because you're just so young and everything's so new to you and you're just trying to figure everything out about life and yourself.
did you have in high school? Did you have discomfort with your body or confusion, sexuality wise or gender wise?
Uh, Not really, no. In high school, I mean, the only discomfort I really had was I just wanted to like lose weight, and I did, because I was kind of overweight for a while there. But I didn't really have any discomfort. Nobody was really openly rude to me for being gay. Obviously, there were some people, but most people just kept their distance if they didn't like it. And so I guess I didn't really have any of the discomfort or anything until I got to college.
Did you insert yourself directly into an LGBT group? Was that how you got introduced to gender, or was it just everywhere?
Um, it was probably, yeah, I want to say it was through like my college's like LGBT group, which I never initially joined. I had like I think it was my boyfriend at the time who kind of introduced me to it, and I started going. It was either my boyfriend or a friend. So that's how I kind of got introduced to a bunch of different people, and a lot more of the gender stuff. Because before that, I knew about transgender people, but I didn't really, I guess, know as much as I thought I did.
And how did being gender queer affect your relationship with romantically or intellectually with the people around you that you liked?
Yeah. Um, I really don't think that one affected me as much, just because that was kind of something I kept in my head and only really told
Oh, okay.
like my gender therapist. But later on, that kind of identity changed into just me identifying as a trans woman later on. Like once I had started transitioning, it like shifted.
What was it like going to a gender therapist? What did they focus on?
Um, I mean, so for the first two appointments, like both times, it's kind of a plethora of questions that they just kind of ask to get a sense of whether you're a good candidate to go on cross-sex hormones.
Hmm.
Um,
Did
if
you study up the right
No,
answers? Okay.
I didn't really like I had seen posts about like what to say really.
Hmm.
But I mean, a lot of the questions were just kind of like, what were you like as a kid? Do you have any like, basically trying to figure out if you have any underlying issues that could be causing this? What was your past like? What's your relationship with your family like? Questions like that. But I mean, it's only 2 1-hour appointments, so you can kind of only get so deep into a lot of those questions, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It doesn't really sound like therapy. That sounds like a misnomer.
Mhm.
What was the relationship to becoming a woman or womankind? What was it about being a woman that you found attractive or compelling?
Um, I think it was just the fact that when I was growing up, I wanted to like kind of wear more feminine things or be kind of more feminine. And it
Hmm.
was always kind of shut down to a certain extent. Um,
Hmm.
so I think seeing that, women were allowed to do these certain things, but I couldn't because I was a guy, just kind of stuck with me. And then also, I remember reading stories of like gay guys who would transition into like straight women, and their parents would accept them more because then they didn't have a gay son, they had like a straight daughter. And not that my parents weren't, what's the word I'm looking for? they weren't not accepting of me being gay. They just weren't the most accepting. So they're a lot more accepting now, though. So I appreciate the growth.
Mm.
But I feel like those kind of things really fed into me kind of wanting to identify as like a woman instead of just a gay guy.
Was there a social milieu where you would be more accepted? Did you see yourself? Was there no kind of gay community or a community for gay males? Was there a mixed community where you would find more acceptance as a female than a male?
I mean, where I live, we have like a small gay community. And I was kind of in it. But I think I kind of set my mind on a certain thing. And back then when I kind of made decisions, I tried to like stick to them to my detriment. So and I know when I transitioned the second time is what I call it, but really the first time I don't even really count because it was like just a few months on cross-sex hormones. The second one is when I did everything. I felt like, my life was in a good point, so this is the time to do it. I just finished college. I'm going to a grad program. Everything feels like it's falling into place. So now would be the time to transition. And transition ended up unraveling a lot of the things falling in place. But
what did estrogen feel like?
it killed like my sex drive. Like the libido was like gone. It obviously had like a few physical changes, like body hair slowed, facial hair slowed. I grew some breast tissue. I held more fat or water in my face. I don't know. My face was just a lot puffier. Also, this could just be me, but it definitely made me cry more, I would say. And I was on like, what was it? Anti-anxiety meds since I was 16 at the time. So my emotions were just kind of like held down by those drugs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I never really cried. So when I was on estrogen, I cried way more. So I definitely pin it on that because it's the only outlying factor I can really find.
Did you have an image of this was there a relationship to this transition to you that was a new you or somebody else or a fulfillment of what you really were? Or?
I would say like a new me, like it would be like a fresh start almost in my head, which was also kind of appealing because I mean, a lot of people I feel like, we want to be able to start fresh every now and again. And so I kind of also saw it as that, which was appealing to me. So, along with the other benefits that I saw in it, it was also becoming like a new person, a new me, start over, start fresh, the world's my oyster now.
Did you train your voice and your mannerisms, or did you just let yourself do what you always wanted to do but were repressed?
My mannerisms are what they are. I never really trained those. I've always just kind of had them. My voice, I did do some voice training lessons. They never really stuck though because it takes a lot of like focus to try and keep your voice at a certain way when you're talking to people. I just never.
Could you replicate that now? I'm just interested in how they would train you.
I can try. Let me see. It's difficult. I really have to like think about it. Hey everyone, my name's Chelsea. How are y'all today? Like kind of like that. It was more like higher pitch, supposed to be more airy. And Chelsea was the name that I changed my name to when I was transitioning. So
did you, this is kind of a weird question. I don't know how you conceptualize that, but what was your relationship to Chelsea?
I mean,
you have different kind of characteristics than you manifested, or?
I'm trying to think. I mean, pretty similar because it was still just me. I guess the only difference is like, I finally felt like I could finally wear the clothes that I'd always wanted to wear. I felt like I could finally, try out makeup. I grew my hair out for a while, which I absolutely hated because I have really curly hair and it's horrible to keep up with. Um,
Oh no.
but I guess it kind of felt like it gave me an out to finally, try all the things that I wanted to try, but felt like I really couldn't since
Okay.
I'm a guy.
What was your attitude towards the surgery? Was it the fulfillment of it, or was it necessary in order to complete?
So with the orchiectomy, which like if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's removal of the testicles. With that one, I had wanted it because I had read online that it can help with the like effects of estrogen, like work better and faster. And also in my state of Louisiana, you need to have some type of surgery to get your sex marker changed. So I didn't want to change my name until I could also just do like the sex marker change with it because it's really expensive to get these
Hmm.
changes done in Louisiana. Like I just got them changed back and it was like $650 almost.
Hmm.
Um, so it was kind of like that's why I wanted it. And so I started the estrogen in July of 2019, yeah. And then I got the orchiectomy in October of 2019, so only like 3 months afterwards. Um, and so when I was getting the surgery, I was like super excited for it. And then afterwards, I kind of had like some regret. Like I didn't want to remove the bandaging. I was very scared kind of. Um, and I had regret afterwards, but I was only like basically out of commission for 3 days. Like I was able to just get right back to life. And I was still in what I call the honeymoon phase of my transition. Like it was still really early. I was still like, getting everything figured out. So I was kind of able to push those regrets down and like aside. Cause again, I just got back on with life. The transition was still fresh and new. I'd read, people have regrets after surgery. It's fine. Like you'll feel fine after a little while. Um, I mean, all of that came right back up with the second surgery that I had though in October of 2020, which was the breast augmentation. Um, that one was not just a 3 day out of commission. That was like over a month where I was basically just stuck at home because you can't really do anything with your arms.
Hmm.
It's a very I'm trying to think of the right word. It's just a surgery that really takes you out. Um, and so I was kind of trapped at home for like a month to a month and a half. And, all of those past feelings of regret came up, new feelings of regret came up over that surgery. Um, and so since I was stuck at home, I had to just kind of reconcile with all that stuff too.
Now, you were alone. Did you have people to chew
Yeah,
on this with?
I have a roommate, but I didn't really want to like I was very nervous to talk to anyone about it just for the sheer fact that I felt extremely embarrassed and depressed that I had made such like a wrong decision. And not just to the point where it's like, oh, I took, cross-sex hormones for several months, which can still really mess your body up. But it wasn't just that I had done that. It was that, I've had two surgeries, one of which can never be undone. Like I'll have to be on some type of, sex hormone for the rest of my life. Um, so I did end up discussing it with like my therapist for a bit. Um, and then I like talked to my mom about it because my parents always kind of stayed by my side. They weren't really happy about the transition, but they were like, if it's what you want, we'll be here. We'll like support you. Um, but I always knew that they weren't really happy about it. So it made it a bit easier to go to them
Mm.
when I had these doubts because I knew like, they would listen, they would help me talk it over. Um,
Were there any resources that you found online to or
uh,
community?
r/slash Detrans on Reddit, absolute lifesaver because
Hmm.
I didn't really know who to go to at first. And they were basically the first thing that I kind of found when I was looking stuff up. And I was in a really bad headspace. and I was able to, make a post there and get a lot of outreach from other members. And so that was like an absolute help, honest to God lifesaver, because I was extremely depressed and was like getting suicidal from how depressed I was about feeling so much regret over my transition.
In the lead up to the first surgery, did you have somebody in the medical profession that was holding your hand and talking you through this, therapeutically wise?
I mean, I wouldn't say I really had anyone holding my hand. I had like, my therapist who I had discussed it with, my endocrinologist who gave me the referral to one of the two urologists at the hospital, and then the urologist himself. It was just kind of like I set up the surgery, they kind of explained it, and then surgery day came, basically, was how it kind of went.
So I suppose they treat this as an elective surgery. You can do it if you want. It just seems so formal and businesslike. Like, is this what you want? Okay, we'll give it to you, and then bing, bang, bomb. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get it like approved through like, your doctors and whatnot. And normally the WPATH guidelines call for any type of genital surgery. They call for a year of continuous cross-sex hormone usage and 2 letters from like medical professionals to get it like approved. I remember when I was trying to get the surgery and I was talking to my therapist, I told him, I was like, I did cross-sex hormones for a while in the past, and, I've been on them for about 3 months. Still didn't add up to a year, number one. Nor was it anywhere close to a year of continuous hormones. But, I wanted the surgery, so I was trying to make it work. But that's when, I kind of see it as like the professional should kind of step in and be like, hey, let's slow it down. We have these guidelines that we should be following. Because obviously I wasn't in the right headspace. If I was trying to rush the transition this much, somebody should have stepped in and been like, hey, like, let's slow it down. Like, maybe this would be better if you just waited for a bit. But I mean, nobody really did that for me, obviously, if they just went ahead and approved it. I mean, yes, some of that's on me, I guess. But again, I didn't give myself the surgery. Somebody else had to do it. Somebody else had to approve it.
It seems like they have a lack of the ability to say no, and which aligns up with the concept of affirmation. It seems like they're all affirmation right now.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
How did you find stability? You had Detrans community, and how did you get back to peace, or at least not to assume anything, but start to make that turn back to being accepting of your state?
Yeah. It was a struggle at first because it wasn't like I could just be like, I mean, I guess I could have just gone out and been like, at the first moment, just gone out and said, hey, I'm detransitioning, call me Garrett again. I'm just a gay guy. But it was a really embarrassing and depressing moment. Cause again, you make all these changes, you tell everyone like this big announcement, you kind of make everyone change how they're supposed to perceive you and talk to you and talk about you. And you feel almost kind of like a letdown, I would say. But it took a while, but I kind of got back to feeling better once I, came to terms with the fact that I did want to detransition. I went on, I went and got on testosterone replacement therapy. So I quit using estrogen, got on testosterone, which was a bit of a struggle to get on because my endocrinologist required another letter from my gender therapist to get on testosterone, which I kind of found a bit odd that I needed a letter to get on the hormone that I used to make like myself. They said it was just to make sure that they were doing everything by the book, but I don't
They
know.
weren't doing everything by the book
Yeah,
beforehand.
basically she told me that it was to make sure they just kind of had like everything in a row, everything lined up, get everything correct. I was like, whatever, I'll pay the $75 that I need to get this letter, but and I've gotten the surgeries reversed as much as I possibly can. I had the breast implants removed. The only thing I could really do about the orchiectomy is get testicular prostheses, which I did go ahead and get. So I've reversed them as well as I possibly can. And that kind of once the breast implants were out, that was like literally a big weight off.
Really?
Yeah, they were very heavy.
Oh, really?
But yes. But also like literally and metaphorically, it was like a big weight off. Because while I had them, I was always wearing like sweatshirts, always like hunched over. I just felt so uncomfortable with my body. Like I just didn't even want to see myself like naked, basically. Like it just felt wrong. Like it just felt completely wrong.
I wonder if, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but I'm wondering if you were given the chance to have a prosthesis breasts for like a month or something, just to feel it. It just seems interesting that is what turned you. I wonder what the significance of that was, or why
Yeah.
that was so impactful.
Yeah, I mean, it was like taking a shower was not like a good time at all. Like basically, if I did not have to be shirtless, I was always in a sweatshirt because I just felt like it felt wrong. It felt like I had added something to my body that shouldn't have been there, which in my mind, like obviously shouldn't have been there. But it really like messed with me, and it was a lot.
Your libido, you said, was diminished. Well, twice over
Oh yeah.
from the estrogen and then from the orchiectomy.
Yeah.
But was there a sexual component from the outside coming in with the breasts? Like you were on display, you were a woman now, you were desirable. Was there any of that consciousness in the background?
Um, I don't really think so. I think I wanted the breast implants because estrogen did not have much of effect on my chest. Like I did not really grow much breast tissue. I did grow some. But I wanted the breast implants because I didn't really grow anything. And I was like, I want to have, like actual breasts like women have. So I look more like a woman, and I can pass better. And then like I guess since I was trying to pass myself off as a straight woman, there might have been like a little bit of like, it'll make me look better to men as well, I guess. But I think it was more so just me trying to pass better in general and feel more like a woman.
What was the relationship of passing? Was that a psychological burden, or was it something that made you hyper
God.
aware of every moment with human beings?
Yeah. Yeah. It was not fun always trying to basically sit there and be like, am I passing? Am I passing? Am I passing? Like, what can I do to pass better? Do I look like a woman enough? Do I sound like a woman enough? Like, I mean, what those things like, I would sit there and think that and just be like, I need to sound more like a woman. I need to look more like a woman. People like still see me as a man. And, it's just so like, it made me really hate my body a lot too, because I'd always be like, oh, my body looks like so much like a man's, which like, duh. But it just made me really like come to hate my body and so many facets of my body that I never hated before. And so when I detransitioned, that was really nice because I no longer really looked at my body in such a negative light. I was like, I don't have to worry about passing. Like these things about my body are fine. Like I'm a guy. Like this is how my body's always been. This is how my body should be. I didn't have to sit there and think, oh, how do I sound to people? How do I look to people? And it was just like a mental weight off when I finally just stopped caring.
what that this is a really difficult question,
Hmm.
but I think I saw you just very bluntly say it on Twitter, but
Hmm.
so I don't know if to ask this. What's your relationship to your orchiectomy?
Um, I mean, I usually just try to forget about it, but I mean, it's pretty impossible to like forget about. Um, so it it really like messes with me because I mean, like I said in the 60 Minutes piece, it makes it a bit harder for me to feel like my old self again or to just even feel like a regular guy again because I've had this irreversible surgery that is going to be with me for the rest of my life. Like I have to take testosterone replacement for the rest of my life. um the best I can get are like prostheses. So
Have
I
you
mean
lost? I'm really sorry. Have you lost all
it.
sexual function?
No, no.
Okay.
Thankfully, like once I got on the testosterone replacement, my sexual function came back a lot better. Um, so I was very thankful
Woohoo!
for that. Yeah, I was very thankful for that because the loss of libido was honestly really depressing
Yeah.
as well.
What did that feel like? What was it?
Um, it just like it felt like I just had no sex drive really. Like maybe 3 times a month, I'd be like, oh yeah, like there's my sex drive again, finally popping back up. But for the most part, it was like basically non existent. After a while, I just got kind of used to it. It still was like kind of depressing, but I got kind of used to it because it was like a year of basically having like no sex drive. So you get used to it. But
Did you
once, I,
did you have a therapist that was asking you about that and keeping up with you on that?
um, I mean, I was talking to the gender therapist throughout a lot of this.
Hmm.
Um, like on and off. Uh, couldn't always like pay for the appointments
Yeah.
consistently. So,
Hmm.
um, but I don't think I really talked about some of that stuff just because it felt kind of awkward to talk about. I guess I did try and discuss it with who was it? I think I tried to discuss it with another doctor though. Um,
Hmm.
because I was working my way to get bottom surgery, like full on bottom surgery, around the time that I went ahead and got the breast augmentation, which I guess thank God that I had the breast augmentation first. Um, but I was
Hmm.
trying to talk to one of the surgeons who was going to be a surgeon for the bottom surgery about that
Yeah, and you're talking
kind of
about
stuff.
full inversion of the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. With the loss of my like libido, sorry if this is like TMI, but like, I did not get erections very frequently. So like they tell you this when you're getting on cross-sex hormones like estrogen, that you'll have penile atrophy. They did not tell me it would be as painful as it was, but so I tried to ask the surgeon about that, and he was just
What do you
kind of
mean
like,
painful? Was it
like,
shrinking like black
like
hole
this,
kind of?
this, no, the skin just would like, the skin tightened up a lot,
Oh man.
just
Okay.
from lack of use. So whenever I did get,
Oh.
the rare erection, it was quite painful. But so I asked the surgeon about that, and he was just kind of like, nothing to really do about it.
Hmm.
But it's I don't have that problem anymore ever since being on testosterone replacement. That has like fixed it. Testosterone replacement was like a godsend.
I am happy for you.
Hmm.
Do you sink much time, or how much time do you sink into your parents and thinking about that and thinking about it, especially when you're meeting with other people at this point?
I mean,
I know it's lockdown,
if
so
no,
maybe it's
yeah,
not.
I
Is it?
mean, in here in Louisiana, it's pretty open, but
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's like dumb to say, but I just really don't care that much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of throw on a comfortable outfit that I think looks good. Maybe throw on a hat if I just don't feel like having my hair out, and then
Mm-hmm.
just go.
Hmm. What are
Like,
your yeah?
oh, I was just gonna say, like, it's a lot better than just having to worry about my appearance constantly 24/7. I just don't care anymore.
Was there a detransition of your psychology, or what was the detransition of your worldview, or how did the world change around you?
Okay, so yeah, when I detransitioned at the very start, like when I just kind of like come to the mental conclusion I was going to detransition, but I hadn't really taken any steps other than that. Um, I still kind of like trying to think of the right phrasing for this. Before I took like any real like physical steps to my detransition, I still kind of really followed the gender ideology stuff a lot more. But once I started to detransition and like follow other detransitioners and see what they were talking about, um, it kind of really turned me off of the whole gender ideology thing because it really did show me how like it negatively does impact people. Like it negatively impacted me, obviously, after going through my transition and surgeries and whatnot. So
So
I guess,
this gender ideology, it I'm trying to like sum up and package
yeah,
it, because this is something that I've been like at war with for a while.
yeah,
Like all the way back to its roots, queer theory,
yeah,
critical theory, and
hmm
then
yeah,
Hegelian weirdness, like this whole
hmm
thing. But what it did, if I gather correctly, is that when you first it was introduced to you, it introduced the concept of male and female, and that started to detach you from just your manhood, your just your
hmm
basic body. It began
hmm
to detach you from your body into a realm of feeling, of states, and you could be this, you could be that, and the queerness
yeah,
was that you didn't have to be defined, but you knew you weren't
yeah,
just a man, or just even
yeah,
just a gay man. You were gender queer. And then
hmm
somehow that progressed for you into, well, if I'm not a man, maybe I'm a woman. So it was no longer
hmm
a queerness thing. It was a
hmm
landing to this other
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And it kind of allowed you to do that mentally, by
hmm
forming these ideas of male and female that you were
hmm
fleeing from and chasing, or whatever the
hmm
relationship of transition was.
yeah. I would say it's something like that. Yeah. It's a lot. I feel like I try to explain it sometimes to like my dad. He just doesn't get it. He's like, I don't understand. He's like, I don't understand any of that. But he's like, keep talking, just vent to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really, um, for a while there, really believed in like, like, um, what am I trying to think? Like you can, that gender is this end all be all kind of thing. And now, like after detransitioning, I don't really care about gender. I just look at sex because like sex is like the base and it's what actually matters.
Hmm.
Gender is like BS.
Well, I've spoken with other people who, it was Grace. Yeah, Grace said that it was kind of like a soul quest. Like her
No, yeah,
gender was her soul.
I saw that. I saw that. I watched the interview.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
sounds like a
would.
spiritual thing. Like there's this
No,
spirituality thing going
yeah,
on.
I would definitely like agree with that. It feels like it's supposed to be like your gender is supposed to be this thing that you kind of find within yourself, like a journey. And once you find it, it's like this, aha, like eureka moment. Um,
Hmm.
and then you feel like you can just like start life finally, like start it fresh with like head on. Now, like, now you can be you,
Hmm.
but like you were you the whole time.
Yeah, your authentic self,
Yeah.
this concretized. There's so many
Yeah.
rich
Mhm.
psychological concepts going on here, and it's such a
Mhm.
shame that these so-called therapists are not investigating the gender ideology, or not investigating your
Mhm.
actual headspace. They're
Mhm.
just there to see if you're qualified to go to the next step of this process,
Mhm.
that's out of their hands. That they're not. It seems like they're not even qualified to question you, because they don't understand any of this, because they're not asking any
Mhm.
of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then when it start to fall away, the gender ideology fall
Mhm.
away, Did you have a different relationship to yourself, or the idea of an identity or an individuality? Was there a kind of like a eureka in that, like, oh, I'm just me, or something like that?
Yeah, I would feel like to a certain sense, it was when I detransitioned, it was like finding myself again. Like I'd kind of been like lost for a while and just didn't really notice it until I detransitioned. And then I was like, no, like this is who I'm supposed to be. This is who I always was. Like this just is me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Back to being like me, back to being Garrett.
What do you think needs to be said or be out there for males specifically who are going through a process that might end up in detransition or might end up in transition? What kind of resources or words of advice do you have?
God, that's a tough one.
Or what do you think needs to start to happen to help?
Like to help like guys who are detransitioning or thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the best thing would probably to be have like more guys who have detransitioned kind of be out there as like, you know, a voice and a way to kind of show that you're not alone in this. Cause I know when I was like first thinking about detransition, and I reached out for help, it was only like a handful of guys there. And, you know, those handful of guys, it was really nice though, because it was like, you've been through almost the exact same thing that I've been through. So it really was able to help make me feel like I'm not as alone. But since there were so few, it still felt like I was kind of alone in a sense. Like, you know, I'm one of the few, it feels like, just because there aren't as many out there being vocal. And I feel like that can really help because it kind of shows you, you know, you're not alone in this. There are other guys who have gone through this, and, you know, life can get better after it. Because at first I thought it never would, but it definitely has.
I guess the last question: what's life beyond gender? What is it? What does it look like to you now?
I mean, I guess like in one word, freeing. But it feels like I got back on the right path. Like for a while there, like I'd kind of like skewed off, and now I'm back. And it just feels, like I said, freeing. I feel like I'm me again. Not so easy sometimes, just because I've had surgery and whatnot, but it's a lot better than what it used to be.
Do you think that there is, what would be your hope for the so-called, and I don't mean that derogatorily, but it's just a weird phrase, the LGBT community? What do you think needs to be a little bit more changed in there that would be helpful for gay men?
I mean, I just feel like more, I guess, questioning of like gender stuff, because I mean, as somebody who is a gay guy, and who's around a lot of gay guys, it's pretty just like wholeheartedly accepted in the community, without any really critical questioning, I guess you could say. And so, as someone who has gone through it and detransitioned, from my viewpoint, I just sit there and I'm like, why are you not questioning this? Like, you know, so I feel like that's a big thing for the community. Not to plug them or anything, but I do like them, the LGB Alliance. I feel like they're really good with that. They kind of question it more. And, you know, they focus more on, you know, the sex aspect of being same-sex attracted, which is what I prefer.
Well, thank you so much for a little bit of your afternoon, Garrett.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I got him down and then he went back up again. Come here. Come here.